Hey guys, it's Tara Marie, and I'm coming to you here from the Hangar Studios, and I'm here with my guest, Daniel Gutierrez. We're about to do a pre-record of my podcast, and we're talking about his beautiful new book, Radical Mindfulness, Inner Peace in as little as 60 seconds. Right, Daniel?
That's right.
Amen. Stick around for the show. I'm Tara Marie, and I'm a fitness expert, personal trainer, and motivational strategist. Optimal health is achieved when you're balanced mentally, emotionally, physically, socially, and spiritually. My goal is to bring you information that will help you be the best version of you. Well, hello and welcome to Tara Marie Live. Thanks for joining me. I'm your host, Tara Marie Segundo, and I'm a fitness expert, a personal trainer, and a motivational strategist. And we're coming to you once again from the Hangar Studios in New York City. Tara Marie Live is about mental, emotional, physical, social, and spiritual health, and how these 5 pivotal aspects of ourselves as humans must all be nurtured in order for us to experience optimal health, body, mind, and soul. Now, today we're taking a look at our lives from a spiritual perspective, and we're challenging the true meaning of success and how a sense of inner peace and harmony with yourself and your own truth plays a role in that success. In a world where we can live very scattered lives with very scattered energy and focus at an almost frenetic pace, my guest today takes us on a truth-seeking journey to the center of ourselves to find profound inner peace, where past and future do not exist and where the real magic lies only in the present moment. If this sounds foreign to you, this show and his new book will have a positive and profound impact on your life. Please welcome my guest, Daniel Gutierrez, once a high-powered executive, in-demand consultant who graced the covers of business magazines. Daniel realized that there was more to success than a 7-figure earning potential. As president of Primer, a prestigious national leadership organization, and an advisor to the Department of White House personnel for the Obama administration, Daniel was a highly regarded leader. Though he was listed as one of the top 100 Hispanics in America, he felt like something was still missing. So to find fulfillment, Daniel decided to dedicate the next chapter of his life to becoming a master of mindfulness. He was featured in the documentary Luminous Worldviews as one of 18 world-renowned transformational thought leaders. Today, we're talking about his brand new book, Radical Mindfulness, Profound Inner Peace in as little as 60 seconds. Daniel Gutierrez, welcome.
Thanks for having me. So good to be back.
Yeah, we were talking before the show. The last time I interviewed you was on American Latino Radio.
That's right. I remember.
Yeah. And so it's good to have you back. We talked about your book, Stepping into Greatness. This is actually your 5th book.
Yes.
I want to hold it up because I love the cover. Radical Mindfulness. This is a beautiful book. And I love this book. I read it basically in one sitting. And I love, you share a lot about yourself in this book. In your other books, you did too. But in this book is particularly personal. Don't you agree?
Yes, very personal.
Yeah, it was very personal. Now, let's talk about you. This book kind of came at a time, in chapter 1, you talk about getting to a point in life where you decided to go on a quest to discover who you were, and as you said, to find your place in the world and to find your purpose. But at the time, you were, as anyone else would look at you, a highly successful businessman. And when you had this epiphany, you were sitting in my beloved city, New York City. You were sitting
not too
probably
far from
not
here.
Exactly, not too far from here, at the
Havana Club.
And you were sitting up there and you were gazing out the window on a winter night, and as the snow trickled down out of the sky,
It's a sexy scene.
Yeah, but as the snow trickled down, it's almost like the opening of a movie. As
Yes.
the snow trickled down, you gazed out the window and you felt not good.
No,
inside.
Lost. Yeah. It was an amazing moment for me to, it was kind of surreal because here I am in this posh club, membership only club, on 5th Avenue. And as you said, it's starting to snow outside. It's the most sexy. It's almost a scene out of It's a Wonderful Life. It's like it's all beautiful.
And you're holding brandy probably.
A $250 shot of cognac.
Yeah. And you're like looking out the window and it's nighttime. And you know what? And the reason that resonated with me, because I'm a New Yorker now, 26 years, a winter night, when when you're alone, and you weren't even alone.
No.
You were with, I mean, this is, but on a winter night, it can be very dark and very cold, and that can permeate your soul, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
Sure.
Yeah. And I feel like that permeated your soul that night.
Yeah, it was an amazing moment. As I'm sitting there, as I would say, full of myself, thinking I'm successful, look at the people around me.
But you were, to be fair.
Yeah, I was.
Yeah.
And I don't ever want to demean the fact that success is a bad thing. It's just that in a second, my definition of success changed in a second, because I'm looking out the window and I'm just thinking life is beautiful. And I look closer at my reflection in the glass.
Okay.
And I see a tear coming down my face. And I was like, I just didn't understand, right? And so then I hear, what values did you sell to be where you are right now? And I was like, whoa.
Did you felt like you'd sold your soul?
Well, if we go back to the first book, and you know this from the first book, the Stepping into Greatness, I was a licensed Baptist minister at the age of 17. So if you take that context and you move it forward, so the question that was being asked was, what happened to that boy? What happened to Danny Boy? What happened to that kind, that loving, compassionate, forgiving
in Midlothian, Texas?
That's right. That's right.
See, because I'm from Houston.
Right. That's right. I remember now. That's right. I forgot that.
So you were from a small town in Texas.
Yeah. More cows than people when I grew up there.
Yeah. And your mother raised a good boy. Yeah.
Right. So in that moment, everything I had done, because I always say that when you're in leadership, especially big leadership, sometimes you have to look the other way if you want to stay in leadership. Sometimes things happen where you just look the other way and you're not part of what's happening, but you're also you're condoning it because you're not stopping it. And so all of a sudden, all these things rushed back into my mindset, and I was like, what have I done? And who am I? Who am I? And that was a turning point in my life, because I literally left New York City that weekend. And I was at the end of my presidency with the organization here in New York. I no longer engaged with the Obama administration. I was on weekly calls that I was supposed to be on. I just quit listening. I quit being on the calls, and I just walked away from my entire. And now I was also a very successful speaker. I was a very high-paid keynote speaker. And so I just walked away from it all. I just said, I think I need to find out what my truth is. Who am I? And why is it that I can't answer that question? What values did I sell?
Whose voice were you hearing in your head?
I don't know if it was Source, if it was, the universe, God, whatever people choose to call it.
Mama.
But it could have been.
Mama Gutierrez.
Yeah, saying, hey, what have you become? What have you become, right? So I did. I gave it all up. Again, that's the second time in my career that I've done that. And I decided to start traveling and working. I worked with the monks in the Himalayas, or the Himalayas, the Sanskrit priests in the coffee plantations of Kathmandu, the Amazonian maestros of the rainforest and the Amazon, the Pacos and the Quiro from the Andes, and that's what I did for 6 years. I mean,
well, let's go back to that night. Okay, so you're in New York City. You're all dressed in your suit,
custom made.
Your custom made suit,
right.
Very expensive.
Full of myself.
Shoes,
yes. You know how New York is.
Said cognac with no.
Yeah, a $250 shot of cognac. So the best you can buy.
Yeah, and you're feeling profound emptiness.
Yeah.
Now, I would venture to guess that situation was scarier than if you were someone who was out of work, down on your luck, and felt profound emptiness. Because did a part of you not think, what am I, nuts?
Of course.
Okay, so take me to that, because are you saying you awoke the next morning and said, I'm done?
Yeah,
Or it was
like that. No, I felt like I no longer had a path. I felt lost. I felt like, what am I supposed to do now? It's like all of a sudden that drive that I had, that drive for success was just gone, which I feared all my life. Because I thought, what happens when I lose the edge? What happens when I lose the eye of the tiger? Because we all need that drive to succeed. And I just woke up and said, I often say it was like Forrest Gump, when he's running and running and running and running, then he stops and he says, that's all I have to say about that. And that's the way I felt. I said, I think that's all I have to say about that.
So literally from one
day to the next. From that night to the next. I even gave up my membership to that club to all the clubs that I had that I was around the world that I was a part of. I gave it up and said, I don't want to be a part of this anymore.
Do you mind my asking?
I couldn't get in now if I wanted to.
To the Havana Club.
No.
If we want to go there for a drink
No,
after
we
the
can't. Yeah, can't get in.
Do you mind my asking, what was your age at that time? Did any part of you say, wait, is this my midlife crisis? Do you know what I mean?
Well, no, I never even, you know what's funny that you say that, because it probably was, but I didn't look at it that way. I looked at it as an opportunity to have some meaning in my life. Listen, I was coming to New York. I would fly in here at, overnight and get here at 6, 7 in the morning.
On the red eye.
And then I'd have meetings every hour.
Because you're a Californian.
That's right.
You're a nice
throw it in there. Throw it in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would have meetings every hour on the hour, all the way to the last, happy hour at 11 p.m. And at 12 midnight, I would go, why would I go get a hotel for 3 hours, 4 hours? I would literally go back to JFK and sleep on a bench.
Okay.
Until my flight came in. Well, you know what? That's not a way to live. It may be.
Right. It brought in the cheddar, baby.
Well, of course it did. It did.
Yeah.
But it was empty. It's like, we're so conditioned to believe that stress is some sort of motivator. It's not.
Right.
And as you know, because of the things you talk about, it destroys us. And so I realized in that moment, was I successful because I was good at what I did, or was I successful because I feared failure? What's the difference?
Two huge, two
difference.
Very distinct.
Absolutely. And I think that I was motivated by stress. I was motivated by succeeding because I didn't want to fail. And that's really not success, because when eventually you wake up and all those years that you spent making money, you end up having to try to buy back your health. And that's really where I was at. I was at a place where I just needed to stop. And I didn't know, I'm not one that does things traditionally. So me stopping and quitting basically was just the way that I needed to do it.
But it was very bold.
It was bold and crazy.
How many people looked at you and said, are you nuts, dude? Like, seriously?
You don't even want to know how many of my colleagues were scared for me. They were like, you're our leader. What are you doing? Are you crazy? Have you lost your mind?
Yeah, did they think they needed to take you in for a psych evaluation?
Well, they actually, I remember putting something on my website. It was kind of like spiritual in nature, and I get a phone call from someone saying, what are you? You think you're Jesus now? Do you think you're Jesus? I mean, he's really concerned. He goes, you have just destroyed your career. And I said, maybe, but I'm going to go down this path.
This is what you said, and I actually pulled the quote from your book. You said, quote, I knew the truth I was seeking was already in me, right, not with someone or someplace outside of me, but I needed to know how to access the truth in me. And so did that become your quest?
Yes.
That was the quest, yes?
That was where I know these things inside of me. I know good from good and bad, or right and wrong. I know compassion, understanding, forgiveness, but I didn't access those things in getting to the top. Those were things
yeah.
You don't go around, oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't really mean to beat you, right?
Yeah.
Not beat you, like beat you in a running or something.
Win
like
the
that.
competition.
Yeah, win a competition. Yeah. And so so those things are within all of us. We are born with the need and desire to connect with people on a compassionate level.
Okay.
And I'll take it back to something that just brought me to tears. Remember Boehner, the Speaker of the House?
Yes.
When the Pope visited with him, then he ended up resigning his position. And what happened was that the Pope asked him for a one-on-one and was asking him to please consider some of these things that he was against. And then the Pope looked at him and said, would you do something for me? And he said,
oh my God.
I would. This is the Pope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Holy Father. Yes, Holy Father.
Yeah, no, right. He says, will you pray for me? And Boehner lost that. He started
Wait, the
crying.
Pope
asked Boehner,
please pray for
Speaker House. Yeah, would you pray? And when he said that, he said, I couldn't imagine that a holy man like that would ask me to pray for him. And so soon after that, remember, he was on national TV crying because he was so moved by that gesture, because we all have that level of compassion within us and that level of forgiveness and that level of understanding and acceptance. We just need to access it to find. We live in a world today where people are sick and tired of being sick and tired. They want more meaning from their life. In Los Angeles last year, the number 3 things that are always at the top of New Year's: money, relationships, health. Those are always the top 3, always, right? They don't change. Last year, the number 1 was peace and tranquility. Take it easy. Slow down. So people are getting to a place where they're going, okay, so we've done this rat race thing, and how do we find meaning that's deeper than my pocketbook?
I want to ask you a question. So do you think, could what happened to this realization that happened to you, and I'm going to guess you were in your 40s at the time, if I'm doing the math.
Almost 50, yeah.
Okay, so you were in the 40s. Okay. Do you think that something like that could have happened to you even 10 years earlier, or do you think that we almost have to get to a place in life where we've been kind of beaten around a little bit, where do you believe that?
Yeah, I think that it happened exactly when I could handle it and had the resources to stop and say, I'm not going to work. By the way, you can't do that for very long.
Okay.
Before you have to go back to work. But
I got it.
But yeah, it was at a point in my career where you're right, I was doing very well. And so I had the ability to stop.
And you had proven yourself, I think, to yourself.
Yeah, okay, so what's next?
Okay.
What's next?
I get it. Now, in your book, you describe, I thought this was like, this part of the book really grabbed me because, my mother died. And so the first time I interviewed you, your mother was sick.
That's right. Yeah.
She was sick, and you told me that. But in your book, you describe your first experience of what you call radical mindfulness, and it was while your mother lay dying in a hospital bed. And this part of the book, they should do a movie. It kind of blew me. It kind of blew me away a little bit. I would love to see this adapted into adapted in a movie. Would you describe that story? Because again, the book is called Radical Mindfulness. This is where this concept of radical mindfulness to you kind of came about in this hospital room.
Yes, that's where the title came from.
Right.
So imagine that I'm out doing what I'm doing. I'm spending time in the Amazon jungle. I'm doing all these things to just find out what I'm about and who I am.
Okay.
And then one day I wake up and I ask myself another question. This time it was, what the hell were you thinking? Why did you let go of everything? Why did you walk away from your career? Why did you walk away from your leadership? Now what are you going to do? I mean, I'm like scared.
You had regrets.
The regrets were coming in. And so the question was why? And then I got a call from my sister. It says, you need to come home. And I said, how's mother? And they said, well, things are bad. You need to come home. So I came home. And I remember that night.
Now, this is just about a year ago. This is 2017, 2 years ago.
It was just her anniversary.
2 years ago. Yeah. Okay.
Yesterday. So when I got there, my sister and brothers had been watching her. So I said, why don't you guys go home and let me tend to her? I'd love to be with her alone. And of course, they were happy because they'd been in the hospital for days and days and days. So I'm sitting there and I'm watching her, and no hospital room's ever made for the person sitting there. The little couch was tiny and it was cold, and I'm watching her, and all the bells and whistles, and one would go off and I would get scared, and I thought, oh gosh, she's dying now. And then in like a moment of clarity, I realized that my ego self was getting caught up in, you were a horrible son, you weren't around enough, all these things.
Why did you leave?
Why did you leave? Why did you tell her that she had to share you with the world? Yeah. That was a crazy thing to tell your mom.
Yeah.
And
because your brother and sister had stayed nearby.
Everybody did. I'm the only one that left.
Okay.
Yeah. I was like the black sheep of the family. Right?
Okay.
That took off, right?
And you went far.
No, I wasn't around. And so all these things are now coming back to haunt me. And I'm sitting there and I'm looking at her, and in a moment of clarity, the time just stopped. And I'm looking at her, and I remembered what the monks taught me. I remembered what the Sanskrit priests taught me, and the Amazonians and the Kiro. They said, be present. Stop it. Right? Like all of a sudden, everything in my mind stopped, and I'm looking over at her, and all of a sudden in my own body, I could feel her liver failing in my body. I felt it in my body. I could feel her struggle to breathe and to live. My whole body became hers. Like it was like I could feel her pain.
Okay.
And I was almost freaking out because I was going, what's happening to me? Right? And I'm looking at her, and then the most magical thing happened, and this is where the whole book came from, is that I'm looking over at her, and she turned into a light. like she wasn't mom anymore. She was this
A soul.
like a light, like a spirit, like a soul, this beautiful bright yellow light. And I was like, what is that? And then I looked down at my hands, and all of a sudden I became a light. Like I wasn't the sun, I wasn't Daniel, I was just a spirit. And the spirit looks at me and says, many lifetimes before we incarnated into this body, you made me a promise. The promise was that you would be here when I needed you most. You're here.
Oh.
You have fulfilled your contract. You may leave. Thank you. And I was just like,
But oh my God, yeah.
It's still hard to say it sometimes because it was so beautiful and so amazing.
And it wiped away your guilt.
Well, it did. Well, everything.
Yeah.
Everything went away because she was saying, you
You
did what
it.
you were supposed to do. So my whole life, everything that I had done, the things I'd done, the people I met, was for that moment. My entire life came down to that moment, that everything prepared me. And I had the choice to be there or not. I could have said no, but I was there and everything. So in that moment, the word radical came up. That it was radical that I could stay that present to experience something so beautiful. And had I not been radically present or radically mindful, I would have never experienced the most beautiful thing that's ever happened. It changed my entire life, changed the entire course of my life. That's when...
In what way? Because it gave you freedom?
Well, not only did it give me freedom, I had a book deal with a major agent for a book called Dancing in the Chaos. And I was writing that book.
Okay.
But it was a book that I wanted to write to make money. I was going back to the same old stuff. I was thinking, business and what does the corporations want? Let's see what they want. In that moment, I realized that I needed to write a book about this experience, about what I had experienced both in corporate and with my mom, and it needed to come from my heart. And it could not be written for corporate, and if they didn't like it, so what? Mm-hmm. It needed to be from my heart. And I promised my mom I would write that and publish it.
You promised this?
Yeah. That I would write this book, yeah. So
she was caught, because she didn't die that night. She died. It was
4 days later.
Correct.
Right.
So
I don't know if she heard me, but I knew she heard me.
Okay.
Right, like body to body.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe that she was around anyway. But I said I'm going to do this. I'm gonna. So I came back and fired my agent, and he was like, "What are you doing again? What are you doing? Like, I'm the best agent out there." Well, you are. And he's got some big titles like Ed Cartoli. I was just compelled to say, I need to stay. I didn't do all this and walk away from my career to get back in it.
Right.
I need to be really present to that. And so I did. I made that promise, and that's where the book Radical. That's where the name Radical came from.
And when you were having that experience, if you had been frightened of it,
right,
been frightened of that kind of presence, that kind of closeness,
that's pretty tense,
and pushed it away, I'm sure it would have gone away.
Right. Yeah, easily.
Because part of why I think it happened to you was because you were open to it happening.
I was
Don't
present.
you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. I was prepared. All those years that I went, even though my mom thought, where is he now? That all of those things prepared me for that moment. All of those things prepared me for that moment. And I get that my entire lifetime, everything, from the age of 0 to then, which was in my 50s or late 40s, 50s, was for that moment. It's so that I could be present. So present that I could see that and get that message, because it freed me. It freed me in a big way. And the publishing of this book is the icing on the cake, because now I can say, Mom, I can go on now. You can let go. This is what I promised to do, and I did it.
And I did it.
And so now I feel complete.
Well, you said in the book that by the time your mom passed, which was 4 days after, you said that you finally felt understood by her, and the things she always told you came back to you. Are you living the truth of who you say you are?
Right.
If you know your truth, stand in it. Never forget to stand in your truth. She was a wise woman.
She didn't say much.
Yeah, but when she spoke, she had a lot to say.
Right. How
did her words then affect that path? The path you decided to take, you just decided this is confirmation.
Yeah, because I think that inside of me, a lot of people would say, well, what happened to that minister at 17? Well, it just wasn't my path. However, the desire to change lives, the desire to touch people, the desire to be there was always there. That never went away. I think that was part of why I was so successful in leadership, is that I still had that piece. And that just her saying, be who you are. Because in the book, I talk about shamanism. I talk about things doing ceremony with Palo Santo, sacred wood. And, that's the stuff that I didn't want to tell Mom because I thought she'd think I'd lost my rocker, right?
Yeah.
But it was the very thing that she needed on her transitioning in those moments. And I can remember getting up one morning and hearing, you need to do ceremony for your mom. This is what you do. And I'm like, I'm not doing it. Well, even though I brought everything with me. No, you're not doing. I'm not doing that because they're going to laugh at me.
Yeah, you felt you felt hesitant.
Well, yeah, because I mean, this is not stuff they would normally see me do. But I ended up doing ceremony for her. I ended up giving her permission to let go. I ended up giving her, almost what a priest would do in last rites. It was a beautiful thing to be able to do that. And the funny thing, my mom, she had a sense of humor. So I do this early in the morning when only the nurse is there because she's in hospice now and on morphine. And so I did it when just the nurse was there so that I wouldn't have to do it in front of the family. And, of course, Mother loved it, and she responded to it very well. And as I'm leaving, my brother runs in there and says, hey, everyone's in there now. He says, Mom wants you to do it again. I went, oh, no.
Lord
of
mercy.
No, you're not getting out that easy.
Yeah.
No, you're not getting off that easy. Come back and do it again. And so I did. I came back and performed the ceremony again, this time out loud.
Yeah.
So that people could hear what I was saying.
Because she had pride in you. She had a lot of pride in you.
Yeah.
And you know what? When I was reading this part of the book, I almost saw you as like a little boy. Because all children want their parents to be proud of them.
Right.
And we're just tall children.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? I'm just a tall little kid, And it was like finally you had this validation.
Yes.
That you needed from your mom your whole life.
Right.
In order to go be who you really were.
Right.
That's what I got out of it.
And it was a release too, because Mom and I had she loved that I was pursuing my dreams, but she also, it was painful for her not to have her oldest son, her firstborn, there, because I was the only one that wasn't around the house. So I think there was a struggle there between her supporting what I did and being angry that I wasn't around her. So I always said she paid a huge sacrifice. She made a big sacrifice by allowing me to do what I did. And I think that energetically sometimes kept me back. And so when all that happened with her in the hospital, it just released all that
freed
from me.
you.
Yeah, it completely freed me.
Now,
completely.
You talk about in the book being still and being fully over the top present in the moment. And I want you to explain exactly what you mean and how doing this can make our lives so much more meaningful. And again, I sort of alluded to it in the open. And you're a nice California guy. I'm here in New York City. We're all so frenetic and scattered. And you're talking about, again, be still, be fully over the top present. How is this the avenue to change our lives?
Well, most humans, we have 80,000 thoughts a day go through our mind every day.
From the moment we awaken.
Wake to the time we go to sleep. 80,000 thoughts. Around 80,000. Could be more, could be less. We tend to live either in the past or in the future. We don't stay present. We don't breathe and we don't stay present. And when we don't live in the present moment, we give up the power to change the future. And so I realized that the more I stayed in the moment, even if I was freaking out, couldn't pay the mortgage or deal wasn't coming in or whatever it is, that people stress over. There are human stimulants that are good for us and there are human stimulants that are not good for us.
Okay.
So if the good ones are love, the number one is love and companionship, community, family. Those are good human stimulants. The bad human stimulants are stress, drugs, alcohol, and fear, doubt, and disbelief. So those things are also, now, people can be motivated by those human stimulants and succeed, but eventually it will take its toll on the body, on the mind, on the relationship. Something's going to give.
Okay.
And so those stimulants only live in the past or the future. They don't live in the present moment if you can stay there. So we get all worked up about things like, I can't pay my mortgage. Let's say it's the second of the month. You've already paid the mortgage, and now you're stressing about next month. And so I really realized that in teaching people, and I say 60 seconds because people can barely sit at a red light, let alone breathe for 60 seconds. It's not an easy thing to do. People go, oh, come on. No, it's not an easy thing to do. It's easy and it's not easy because we're human and our human condition gets in the way. 60 seconds can be a very beautiful thing of just breathing or using essential oils or using something to bring you into the present.
Sitting.
Yeah, just sitting. Or sitting in front of these beautiful fountains all these buildings have, and feeling the water hit your face instead of stressing out about who knows what. When we stay in the present moment more than we don't, our life changes because we realize that the only power we have is in the present moment. And the only way we connect to something bigger than ourselves, whether it be God or source or universe, is in the present moment. And that's where all the power is at. Most people never get there. They stay in the past or the future.
Because again, and the past can pull you into depression.
Right.
And then the future pulls you into anxiety.
Right. And both those are self-inflicted. They're both self-inflicted.
Amen to that.
Yeah. We create that stuff.
But you know what? I gotta cop to this. Like this book, I loved reading this book selfishly. Selfishly, I liked reading this book because I need this. I'm a New Yorker.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I needed to read this book. And it reminded me of things that you've already taught. Like, it reminded me of things that I've already heard you teach.
Right.
But I still needed to be reminded of it because the alarm goes off.
Boom.
You got to get out.
There we go.
You've just got to stop. Yes. And,
What is life if we get to the end of the road and we haven't lived at all? And a lot of us do that. I mean, in the time that I was gone, a lot of my friends had strokes. They had heart attacks. They got fired from their jobs. They died. I mean, and I thought about that, and I thought, my gosh, what kind of lives were they living? Only to realize at the end that they couldn't do anything about it, and that's why it's so important. Now, I do want to say this because I think it's important also. I am in no way, shape, or form saying that success is a bad thing. I think success is awesome. And I clearly,
monetary success.
Yeah. For example, I know that when I was speaking many years ago, I would tell the Hispanic community, they would always say, oh, God loves the poor, God loves the meek and whatever. And I said, well, good, I'm glad. But the last time I checked, he loved the rich too.
Yeah.
So it's not a bad thing to want success. I think that you can have success and have peace and tranquility in your life. It just depends on how you look at it.
Right.
And that the human stimulants you're using to get that success are on the top half of the love and community and connection rather than stress, fear, doubt, and disbelief.
Because when you had your epiphany, I think you were so empty.
Right.
You had money in your pocket. You had a full wallet.
Right.
But you had an empty soul.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
That was the problem.
Exactly.
Correct?
Right.
Yeah, and that's what you're speaking against.
Right.
You don't have a problem with a full wallet.
No.
It's just
fill it up, baby.
It's just you're saying, look, you've got to fill up your soul.
Yes.
Like this is the one life you get. Are you going to get to the end of your life and realize you didn't live a moment of it because you were always thinking ahead?
Right.
That's basically
absolutely.
Now you define radical mindfulness. I thought it was a great definition, so I pulled it word for word. On page 43, this is your definition of radical mindfulness. The daily practice of not only being aware, but being so deeply and consistently present in your awareness that you are monitoring your thoughts on a moment-by-moment basis while simultaneously redirecting your actions toward your intentions and commitments, and you see continuous fundamental change in yourself and continuous far-reaching changes in your life. As such, you are the ultimate observer of your thoughts. You are the master of yourself. So how does doing this? Okay, so I understand that this is mastering the mind.
Yes.
Fair to say, if you can learn to do this, to master the mind, you can master the outside world. Is that fair?
The outside world responds to the inside world.
Okay, talk.
And that's scientific. There was a time when they said that quantum mechanics and quantum physics said that when we bump up against a rock, that hitting up against the rock is what's happening to us. Then they said, wait a minute, that's not true. What's true is that what we think on the inside creates our reality on the outside.
Okay.
So it's not the outside, it's the inside. So what I'm trying to say is that if we can stay focused, again, staying radically mindful,
moment
on
by
a
moment.
by moment, because listen, 80,000 thoughts a day. In a second, you could be on the beach, you could be crying, you could be. I mean, we're able to do that. So we're constantly, like I'm constantly throughout the day bringing myself back. Constantly, like, why am I going there? Why am I feeling? All of a sudden, you feel in your body anxiety.
Yeah.
What's that about? Because I'm in the future.
I'm letting myself.
letting myself, letting the string out of my kite too far.
Pulling it back.
Pull it back. Pull it back. And pull it back. And if we do that more often than not, and I don't even know what the percentage is. Let's just say 80% of the time, because we're human. We're not going to do it 100% of the time. Then we can see results in our lives so drastic that we'll do more of that. So I say 60 seconds because what I'm hoping is that people do 60 seconds of breathing or meditation or yoga, and they like it and they give themselves 120 and then 180 and then 240. And the next thing you know, they're doing 5 minutes a day and they're doing 10 minutes a day. And that's important.
Speak more about how this internal mastery changes the external.
Well, we're powerful manifestors. And the only way I can really kind of bring this home is that people in relationships, a lot of times I hear this, I just don't understand. I keep dating the same guy. Or I kept,
women say, yeah.
Or I got the same boss, or I got the same job. Well, that's a proof of a powerful manifester. They're so consumed with what they don't want that they bring in the same person over and over again. And so that's how powerful we are. So if we can take things in the past and bring them into the present moment, we can also create the present moment, create a future that becomes the past that's even just as glorious as, anything that we ever wanted. It sounds complicated, but it's really not. We are constantly manifesting our world around us with our thoughts. If we're going to see the results that we want, we need to stay present. And I've taught this to my clients over the last few years. Just stay present. They'll call me, and this, I'm going, okay, has it happened? No. Yeah. Okay, let's talk about it when it does. Even the person that says they can't pay the mortgage, I'll always say, okay, look, it's the 5th of the month. If you get to the end of the month,
then we'll panic. Yeah.
I'll cry with you.
Yeah.
But we're not there.
Yeah.
That's what I mean by redefining moment by moment what your thoughts and intentions are.
And by aligning ourselves with our thoughts and our intentions and taking that into our actions, that is how we then manifest the outside world.
That's a practice. Yeah, absolutely.
And that's how we manifest the outer.
Anything.
Now, in the book, you say specifically mindfulness is not enough, because mindful is a buzzword. It's a buzzword.
That's why I said that.
You say mindfulness is not enough. What's the difference between what people mean by mindful and you're radically mindful?
Yeah, it's really simple. So mindfulness is just awareness. It's just awareness.
Give the example about when you were fat. Give that example.
When I was what?
In the book, you talk about how when you were 200 and some
220.
Like you were dangerous. Like you had health issues.
Yeah, a lot.
You were aware.
But I was still eating. I would say I was aware, but
you were aware.
But I was eating potato chips on the couch too, right?
While you were So give that example.
Yeah. I think that awareness. Let me go back to the definition real quick. The mindfulness is just awareness, right? Like I was 220 pounds and I was aware, but I wouldn't do anything about it, right? Okay. Like the alcoholic can be aware that they're alcoholic, but they don't want to do anything about it. So they're not mindful. So mindfulness is just awareness. Radical mindfulness is the practice of awareness. That's the difference. I'll give an example. Somebody goes in the morning and does yoga every single day. They do yoga. That's their practice at, for 30 minutes, 40 minutes. Mm-hmm. Now in Los Angeles, we have some crazy freeways, 14 lanes. They're huge. There are crazy people out on the freeway every day. If you leave that yoga studio or that meditation practice or Tai Chi or whatever it is that you're doing, and you get on that freeway and the first person that cuts you off, your fingers start... Flipping you have no practice.
Right.
You have no practice. That's what I'm talking about. The goal is, and I'll tell you another story. This recently happened. So I was asked to speak at an ashram.
Okay.
First of all, I've never been to one, so I wanted to know
Where?
In LA.
Okay.
And so I said, okay. We want you to speak. Okay. So I remember getting in this ashram, and I'm sitting there, and I'm thinking to myself, inside, oh my gosh, these are like yogis. What can I teach yogis?
Intimidating.
What am I going to teach meditators? These are professional meditators. And I'm looking at them, and they're looking at me, and I'm going, oh, boy, this is not good.
I'd be intimidated.
I was intimidated.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So I'm sitting there and I'm going, and then I looked at this one guy and I went, I have a question. This ashram, spiritually exquisite. I feel it. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
I said, but at the end of that 100 yards of that driveway is 6 lanes of cars coming through there. It's busy. There's a college across the street. I said, when you guys back up into that and someone pulls out and almost hits you, what do you do? Be honest. Are you flipping people off?
Yeah.
And they start laughing. I said, then you have no practice.
Right. Yeah.
And that's what I was trying to make a point in, that the radical mindfulness is the practice of mindfulness. And if we can practice mindfulness more than not, our lives change, our health. I became mindful and radically mindful of what I ate.
Yeah.
Right? I didn't really know.
Lost 45, 50 pounds.
Yeah, this is crazy. I didn't know. You would think that, I'm an idiot? I'm a smart guy, but I would eat a whole bag of chips watching TV. I didn't know it had 4,000 calories.
Yeah.
I just never paid attention. Right? And so once I started to become aware and radically watching what I was eating, then my whole life changed, right? And that's part of I think the journey for me was body, mind, and soul. Because at the time when I was sitting at that posh restaurant in New York City, I was overweight. I was drinking heavy. I was just
barely sleeping.
I told you I just slept on a bench. It wasn't a good life, right? And as I became more aware that those things were basically killing me, and after Mom passed away, the last thing I wanted to do was to die because of what I was eating, right? Because that was the research that I did, because I wanted to know what killed her, and she died of
non-alcoholic.
Cirrhosis of the liver, but it was from fatty liver.
Yeah.
And where does fatty liver come from? From a bad diet for so long, your body can't respond anymore. Your liver can't regenerate.
God bless. Yeah.
And so when I realized that was the reason why she passed away, I thought, gosh, I could take having something that I didn't bring on upon myself, but I can't die because I didn't eat well. That's on me.
Especially the mindful
That's
master.
on me, right?
Yeah,
That's on me.
The
right?
master
That's
of
right.
mindfulness. Yeah.
Yeah, and I had been on stages like almost popping out of my suit.
Yeah.
It was horrible.
So in other words, basically, you even use this word in the book. It's alignment. It's the being present, aligning with your actions, and aligning with what you desire to manifest. It's the practice of that.
Yes.
You actually wrote. You wrote, radical mindfulness requires that we inspect our thoughts and actions on a moment-by-moment basis in our attempt and desire to create alignment between our intention, awareness, and action, between our body, mind, and spirit.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And I wanted to say, I love this quote. You wrote in the beginning of chapter 5, and I actually posted this on Twitter. You saw that.
I saw it. Yeah, I did.
Because when I saw it, I said, I'm posting that on Twitter. Damn it. So you wrote this. Life does not guarantee us an easy ride. However, it does guarantee that if we endure and support our intentions with commitment, we will see success beyond our wildest dreams.
That's right. In every area, body, mind, and soul. It doesn't have to be just monetary. And I don't think that people in our world today are just looking for monetary success.
Not anymore.
They want more.
Not anymore.
They want to feel good. And we live in a crazy time where leadership around the world is taking advantage of all the world. And it's a good thing, because we're getting to bump up against what we choose to have in our lives and what we don't. Mm-hmm. And then what we get to do is decide to act upon that or not.
And again, it's about manifesting what you want. And I don't know, I guess this is what happened to you, but I've even come to this happened about a year or 2 years ago. I realized, I said to myself, what are your top 3 priorities in life? And then I looked at my life, and nothing I was doing was leading me toward those 3 priorities, because I was caught up in the rat race.
Yes.
And so this is basically what this is about, right?
This is like Life 101.
Yeah.
It's a simple book about just keep it simple.
Yeah.
Keep it simple, and it doesn't have to be, for those of you that don't meditate, and there's a lot that don't, you don't have to, go and sit on an ocean or a mountain or anything. You can be in your cubicle and take a deep breath and take a moment to just let your body relax, and we're so distracted in our world, so distracted with social media, with ads, with, sports, with relationship. that we just don't, we're not living.
And basically, another thing I got from this book is you went off to different corners of the world to do this. You don't have to go off to different corners of the world.
That's why I wrote the book.
Most of us are not going to go
right.
off to different corners.
Yeah, you're not going to the Amazon.
You can find your paradise. There's a slice of heaven wherever you are.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you can do that in your cubicle. And I'm encouraging, corporations to allow this. Let your people take a breath. Let them get centered. Show them how to do that, and you'll have better employees and better relationships and better health. It is if you think about business, let's take it to the business side.
Cutthroat.
Yeah, but business on a good year, if you get 3% increase in profits, is a good year. 3 to 4% of the bottom line after, gross, net. I mean, but studies are showing today that there's a 20% increase in productivity with employees that are being allowed to use mindfulness or meditation or yoga in the workplace. That's 20% increase per person productivity. You can't get that anywhere else. There's nothing else we can do in the business world to squeeze out another freaking dime out of whatever, because we're beating people to get more money. But what we're doing is that we're beating them into lack of submission rather than giving them a moment to gather themselves, bring themselves into this present moment, get themselves radically mindful, and then go back to work.
Yeah. You're reminding me, Ariana Huffington, she put in little napping things.
Right.
Napping. I don't know what they're called, but little.
Like pods.
Ariana Huffington put in little napping pods, I think, so people could take a moment. And
Right.
So that's what you're getting at. Now, in Chapter 5, Chapter 5 is called 6 Steps to Radical Mindfulness in as Little as 60 Seconds. These are 6 steps that you offer us to help rein us in as little as 60 seconds, yes?
Well, I think that what I was trying to, one of the things that while I was writing the book is I love to teach. And so I wanted to come up with something to help you. Like, if I sit here and tell you, go climb a mountain, you're like, no, Daniel, that's not going to happen. Yeah. But I wanted to make it real for everybody, and that's where the 6 steps came from.
And so I want to review those for people.
Yeah.
So and this is very well outlined in the book. The first is one we've already touched on, become present, and you give different ways that we can become present.
The easiest one, and this comes with a story. I don't know if I told this in the book, but I remember my first stint with a Buddhist monk in the Kopan Monastery in Kathmandu. And I'm fresh out of, Manhattan here in LA, and I'm sitting there and I'm can't sit still, and I'm looking at
because it was your first attempt.
Yeah, and I'm looking at this monk, and I said, "Sir," and people are going, "Oh no, this guy's gonna." I said, "How do I find peace and tranquility?" And
they're like, dumb American.
Yeah, he's really quiet, and he kind of looks up and he says, "Breathe."
Yeah.
And I said, "Wait a minute, and let me ask you again, because I don't think you heard me." I said, "How do you find peace and tranquility?" And he looks up again very gently and he says, "Breathe, brother." And I said, "Look, buddy.
I paid a lot of money."
Yeah. I'm going to drop you in the middle of Manhattan and see how much you breathe," right? I was so angry. But it was so true that later on I realized that I didn't have to get fancy about getting present. I just needed to breathe. I just needed to take a moment and let that tension out of my shoulders and let that tension out of and it would have such profound effect. So many of us get into arguments with our significant others or our loved ones because we don't breathe before we start fighting. We don't stop before we let our emotions run with it. Yeah.
Before you say something that's going to destroy your...
Yeah, and that's in leadership. That's as a parent. Many times I will, lash out at my son and then realize, okay, so that wasn't even about him. What was it about? Take a deep breath and turn around and apologize to him. Mm-hmm. Say, "I'm sorry, that wasn't about you." Because we need to do that. This is, again, going back to the radical part. You're supposed to breathe before you open your mouth, not after. Because then you've already done the damage, right? So what he was teaching me was that it's so simple just to take a deep breath. And of all of the people that I've had the honor of speaking to about this topic, in a business environment, they're always surprised. Really? All I have to do is breathe? Well, I just showed you how to do that.
And as you say in the book, most of us don't even breathe
No, we don't.
fully.
No, we don't.
We take these little shallow breaths because when we have anxiety, we tend to we have shallow breaths in our upper chest. We don't breathe deep into our belly.
Right.
And really fully.
And it's simple. It's free.
Yeah.
It's free. That's why I say if you do anything, do that one. That's it.
And it brings you into this present moment because you have to be there to be
to be breathing.
An awareness of the
of
your breath.
Yeah, like really pay attention to your breath and then coming out. The quickest way that you can quiet your mind is breathing in and out, because while you're doing that, you can't have any other thoughts.
And breathing slowly in through the nose and out through the mouth.
You hold it at the top and then out through the mouth.
Yeah, and that also activates the parasympathetic nervous system.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. It's an amazing thing for us to do, but we don't do it because we're too much in a hurry. So that's the first thing is get present. Like, and in the rest of them, I realized that there were things I was asking myself. How do I keep myself focused in the moment? Because I'm like any other entrepreneur. We got to make stuff happen.
Mm-hmm.
But if I allow myself to get distracted, the next thing you know, I'm walking the dog, or I'm working out, or I'm doing anything but business because I'm running from it, rather than being present and going, what can I do in this moment to change the results that I'm looking for? This is going back to what you said earlier. If I stay in the present moment and I'm focused in the present moment and I'm doing the things that I need to do in the present moment, like calling that client or sending that email, then I'm doing the right things I need to do to get the results I'm looking for. But if I'm lost in fear, doubt, and disbelief in the future or in the past, then I get the same result I've always gotten, which is nothing.
And you're running from your life, and you're usually running towards something destructive.
Well, that's the negative influences right there.
Now, another way to become present, you offer even smells, like smells of fresh flowers in your house, or just noticing. You'd be shocked at how many of us, like, you're around like you literally stop and smell
the roses.
But smells, by smells you mean just become aware of
fragrances,
ambient smells, the cooking, the cookies cooking in the oven, the flowers, fresh flowers, the smell of a Christmas tree, those kind of things.
The strongest sense we have as human beings is smell, and we don't use it enough. And so if you like lavender, or you like lemongrass, or you like cookies, or whatever it is.
Vanilla
is another one, right? Yeah, I use Palo Santo, which is sacred wood I bring from Peru. If you have that scent, and what happens with fragrances is that it helps rewire the neurons and the neopeptides in your brain.
Okay.
So that every time you smell that fragrance, it says peace and tranquility, and you go back into that space. And it's amazing what happens when you do that. I can be starting to get myself into a tizzy, take a drop of the Palo Santo oil, and just take a big whiff, and my whole body just relaxes.
Because you're conditioned that equals calm. Is that accurate?
Yes.
You know what this reminded me of? I have to say this. When you're studying acting, sense memory. When you're studying acting, like if you have to go into a scene and you have to get, sometimes like smelling something will remind you, for me, my father always wears Old Spice, so my father, thank God, is still alive. But when he's long gone, anytime I smell Old Spice, it's going to remind me of my poppy.
Right. Yeah. And that's why I say use the sense of smell.
Okay, the sense of smell. You also say things like listen to ambient sounds.
Sure. Music is a powerful motivator. A lot of times we use it to escape, but we can also use it to get centered and present. Not everybody, by the way, can sit still and meditate for hours. Come on, I can't do it.
You're not even saying hours. You're saying,
I'm just saying, look, find a song that touches your soul.
Yeah.
And use that song again to wire your brain to say, when I hear this song, I'm going to be in peace and tranquility. It's almost a sense of hypnosis, so that you get yourself into that space. So sometimes you can't burn stuff, so you use oils, essential oils, or you can use music. You put in a song that really speaks to you. I don't know. Maybe it's not a good idea to use one that has words, because sometimes we pick songs that describe our anger, or I don't like this. There's songs out there that are just about.
Or there are songs that can put you in a great state of grace.
Right, if it works. It works. But so music is a good one to use, because I use music. I use them all. Like I use all this stuff that's sitting here, even yoga. I don't look so pretty doing yoga, but I do it.
To come present.
Yeah, to get present. Yeah, because it gets me out of the house. It gets me out of the office.
Now, the second one, so in your 6 steps to radical mindfulness, the second one is ask yourself, where are my thoughts directed right now? In the past, future, or present?
Yeah, it's really important once you kind of get yourself centered and present that you ask yourself that question. Where am I right now? Where
am I in my head?
Yeah, where am I? Am I in the past? Am I in the future? Or am I in the present? If you have to ask the question, you're not in the present. You're definitely questioning. So that's kind of the goal is, where am I? Most of the time, you're going to be either in the past or in the future. And that's what you want to know. Oh, okay, I'm thinking about next month. Well, how is that serving me right now? It's not. I have no power next month. I have power right now. And I can change the future by acting a little different here.
Right now.
And then the next question is even more important than that one, and that is, am I okay right now? Am I okay right now? I'm not talking about the future. I'm not talking about in this moment, am I okay? Well, most of the time, the answer is yes.
Most of the time.
Most of the time. It's yes. I'm okay. Well, then what are you fretting about? Right?
Right.
This is all designed.
And this is something you do have to practice because for those of us who are hysterical Sicilians, or like, no, because my mother's Sicilian, my father's Cuban.
Right.
I'm not calm.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and like
I get
you know
it.
that
Yeah.
you're a crazy Mexican,
that's
right?
right?
Aren't you Mexicanos?
That's right.
Yeah. You know that this is not.
That's
this
right.
is not in our blood.
No, it's not. No.
Okay.
You have to practice this.
This is stuff you have to. Okay. So again, where are my thoughts? Where are my thoughts directed right now? Are they in the past, the future, or the present? Answer that question.
Right.
And then reel yourself into the moment.
Right.
And then ask yourself, am I okay right now?
Right now.
Yeah.
Not tomorrow.
Because we're talking about
not later.
Right now.
Not even the next minute. Right now. Are you being threatened? No.
Okay.
Chances are you're not.
Now, the next one, number 4, is ask yourself, are the thoughts, whatever thoughts you're having,
Right.
causing me to feel afraid, stressed, or out of control right now, real?
Right. Are they real? No. What I can tell you right now, most of them are not. So you're thinking about. Oh, so let's go back to the guy who can't pay the rent.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
In fairness to him, that's scary. That would be a real scary thought.
Sure.
Even though it's the beginning of the month, and I get your point. I understand people's anxiety.
Yeah, I
about,
get it.
Yeah.
Well, but the anxiety is self-inflicted. There's no fire. On the 29th, there might be a fire.
Okay.
But not on the 5th of the month.
Okay.
And so what I'm trying to get at is, so the person so you here's what you ask the question. Are the thoughts I'm having right now real? Have they ever been real? And most people can answer this. Have you never not paid the lease? No, it's always been paid, or the mortgage. It may have been bloody, ugly, but it got paid.
Okay.
So so that means that the thoughts you're having right now are not true because it's never happened. However, you're causing anxiety and stress in your life by thinking that it could be true. So if it's not true, what a waste of time.
And also in the book, as you would say, you could spend this moment finding a way to make more money to pay the. In other words,
that's my whole point.
There's a better way to spend this moment.
That's exactly what I'm saying. And that's what I say about being radically mindful, is that if we're in the moment on a moment-by-moment basis and constantly creating action toward our goals and our commitments, we're going to get a different outcome. However, people are addicted to the drama of not paying things and being able to say, yeah, I made it another month. You ever been around people who said, I didn't get anything repoed today?
The lights are still on.
Yeah, the lights are still, remember that one? Oh, lights are still on.
Yeah.
We only have $2, so let's go spend $100. What? So that's kind of what I'm kind of addressing for the average person that really freaks out about these things. I know they do.
I understand, and I get it.
Yeah.
I understand anxiety, and because again, this book was very good for me. It was very good for me because it reminded me you got to reel it back in.
Right.
You got to reel it back in. So again, are the thoughts that are causing me to feel afraid, stressed out, or out of control real? Are they true? Have they ever been real or true? Now, the big one. Ask yourself, what I'm doing right now getting me closer to or further from my desired outcome?
Yeah, that's important. It's absolutely important. And usually if you ask yourself, you know the answer. If you're not making the phone call or closing the deal, whatever it is that you need to do, then you're just getting further away. You're getting further away from your outcome. So that's why the last one is act. Is that you just want to act. You want to do something. Sometimes it's just breaking the energy. Sometimes we can get in front of a computer and get paralyzed and just stare at that thing for hours and hours and not do anything.
Yeah.
And so sometimes it's breaking the energy is maybe you need to go walk the dogs or the animals, or maybe you need to go to a park, but break the energy, and or maybe the action that you need to take is actually calling that client and getting to know if that's what you think you're going to get. It's like I had a client once that she was doing about $50,000 a month in mortgage type work, and she was really stressed out one day, and I walked in her office and I said, "What are you stressed out about?" She goes, "Well, I'm not having a good month, blah, blah, blah." And I said, "Well, what's this contract I had?" It was on her desk. I said, "What's this?" She goes, "Oh," I said, "It looks like it's like $14,000, $15,000 commission. How come you haven't called them?" "Oh, they're mad at me." I said, "Oh, are they mad at you, or are you making that up?" She goes, "No, they're mad at me." I said, "Well, why are they mad at you?" She goes, "Well, because I actually had the deal already. It's been sitting on my desk for 2 weeks." And I said,
Why was she procrastinating?
just because she just had made something up in her head that she didn't want to call him. And so I said to her, I said, "Well, you know what? Call him." And I said, she goes, "Okay." I said, "No, right now. Call him." So
This is a client of yours.
yeah, she calls this person, and I mean, this guy chewed her out for 30 minutes. I was like, and then he said, "Okay, let's make the deal."
Okay.
And she made the money. All that angst, all that anxiety, all that stress that she made up was not true.
You know what you're reminding me? Don't you think most of us are mostly held back by the stories we create in our own head?
Yes.
But they're a bunch of stories.
That's it. That's why I asked the question, have they ever been true? No.
Because I got to tell you, I have a client. I wish I could connect you to. He was a client. He's no longer a client, but he's a lovely man. But he's about 300 pounds over an ideal. Like he's about 350 overweight. So he's close to 500 pounds.
Wow.
Yeah. And his health is in a terrible shape for it. And he very much lives in his head, sitting around telling himself stories.
Yeah.
That
and believing him.
I need to get him a copy of this book because, again, he's never present because he has so much anxiety about everything, and he uses food as his coping mechanism, and he makes up stories in his head that have no basis in reality about who he is and who he's not.
Right.
And it's what he's telling himself about who he's not that's kept him from a real life.
Right. Well, and I think that's the important thing about what I'm trying to ask people to do is get present and ask yourself these questions and get real.
And you have to be present to ask yourself these questions.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah, you can't ask. Yeah, you won't ask yourself these questions in any other space. So it's a practice going back to being radically mindful. And again, the radical part of it is the practice of asking yourself these questions. I've had many great results from people who have used these steps because when they start to get stressed out, if they call me and they're in the middle of some episode, I'll say, "Do the steps and call me back."
The 6 steps.
Yep. And then they'll call me back and go, "Okay, all right, sorry, I didn't mean to bother you."
Now, ACT. Getting back to ACT,
Yep.
the final step, doing something to shift the physical energy. That doesn't necessarily mean exercise.
No.
It could mean
Standing up.
In some cases,
Jumping up and down.
leaving the house, just
Leaving the
getting the
house.
hell out of the house. Because
Yeah.
you know how you get stuck in these things where,
Staring at a computer.
Yeah, get up.
Yeah.
Get up.
Move the energy. Move the energy. Everything is energy. Everything. So sometimes we get stuck in that energy.
Right.
And we need to move. We need to act. We need to go outside. We need to walk.
You know what else you're reminding me about? Your story about the woman. Sometimes the very thing we need to do the most is that thing we don't wish to do.
Right.
Is that accurate?
Yeah, I think so. And who knows for what reason, because we made up a story that it's not going to work. It again goes back to what we do to ourselves up here. It's the self-inflicted stress and anxiety that we create. Now, I'm sure that there are some medical people that need medicine to get them.
Their brain chemistry
right,
situated.
right.
Yeah.
It's medical, but the majority of us is self-inflicted. And if that makes you mad, then it's probably you too.
No, I'm laughing because I feel busted, but
Yeah, we all that way.
Again,
I do the same thing. I just, I tell people all the time, listen,
you're human.
I'm
You're a
one
human
step
being.
ahead of you. That's it.
Yeah, you're human.
One.
You're a human
And on
being.
another day, I could be 5 behind you.
Yeah.
Because I have to practice this. That's why I wrote it.
Yeah, we always teach. This is something that's very true. We teach what we ourselves need to learn.
That's right.
Isn't that the
Yeah,
truth?
right. And writing books is a great way to get it etched in your head.
Right, because you needed to learn it, so it's confirming to you what you already. Now,
like we write books for ourselves, and everybody gets to benefit from it.
yeah, I love this. Now, starting in chapter 6. You teach us 5 practices. What is the purpose of these practices?
Well, the practices were, this is going back to that day I was sitting there and I got, who are you? What values have you sold? And
wait, this is in Cafe, the Havana Club.
Yeah, the beginning.
Okay.
And I think that the practices are things that I found in my life that I have to be in alignment with. That I have to, and these practices are part of the human condition, our need for community, our need for connection, our need for being in relationship with other people. And without these practices, it's impossible to have the kind of life that I think that we deserve and want in our lives. And they're not easy. They're not easy.
Well, and again, you even admit that what was missing in your life when you were on such a high roller business, thing, you had no connection to human beings.
No, it was a game.
You were running around like a rat race.
Right.
You might not have even been seeing your son that much.
Right.
You know what I mean? Or even when your son was in your house, you weren't even
I wasn't
there with
present.
him.
No. I remember once when he was little, he says, "Daddy, it's going to be okay."
Oh, God.
And I thought, I just started bawling.
How old was he? The little baby, like 5?
5, 6 years old.
They're so wise.
And he knew that I was watching whatever he was watching, but I wasn't there.
They're so wise.
And he climbed up in the bed and he says, "It's going to be okay." I just started crying. I thought, I'm not even present for my son.
They're so wise, those babies.
Right.
Yeah. Now, so practice 1 is connect to essence, to you, and to others. Please explain that.
This is an amazing story. I was in a little Inca village in Peru called Ollantaytambo.
See.
And we had decided to go up to a place called Pumamarca, which is about 13,000 feet, overlooking the village where there was an Inca fortress where they would watch for their enemies to come down. You could actually see the trails. And so it's ancient and it's just ruins up there. And so we were up there and doing ceremony, and my shaman or the teacher that was with us that day, I just looked, and he was like 5 foot nothing. And so
little fella.
Little guy, yeah. It was kind of funny because I asked him what his name was, and I really thought it was going to be like Quechua, something hard. And he says, "My name's Freddie." I went, "Oh, no, you can't be Freddie, dude. I didn't come all the way up here for Freddie."
I didn't go.
Right? And I'm thinking,
came to Peru.
Yeah. I'm thinking Freddie the Frog, and now he's green.
Yeah.
I'm going, okay, this is not working. So, I got over that, and I said Freddie. And so I'm going to tell you exactly as he told me. It was in Spanish.
Okay.
And then I'll translate. So I said to him, I said, ¿Qué es el secreto de la vida?
Oh, I love this part of the book.
Yeah. ¿Qué es el secreto de la vida? And he says, Daniel.
What? Okay.
Yeah, Daniel. And I'll translate in a minute. It says, Daniel, primero tenemos que amar a Dios. And for us, it would be whatever you put in there. So tenemos que amar a Dios.
Sí.
Después, tenemos que amar a nosotros mismos y de ahí los demás. Es el único camino, no hay otros. And so what he was saying was that we have to love something bigger than ourselves.
Well, ask you said, Freddie, what's the secret of life?
What's the secret of life?
Yeah, simple question.
Simple,
yeah, quick
right?
question.
Yeah. And he, I know. And he answered, you have to love God first.
Yeah.
And that could be source, universe, whatever you choose to put there. Love yourself second. This is where I found the magic of all this. And then others, because we can't give what we don't have.
Yeah.
And that's what he was saying. If there is no other order, this is the only order. Love something bigger than yourself, love you, and then love others. I really realized that in my quest to help people, I was leaving myself out.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And it wasn't working. Maybe that's why that ended up happening the way it did. But in talking to him, I realized that that order works, because people talk about this movement of oneness on our planet. There is no oneness without oneness with ourselves first. We can't give what we do not have. And so what he was saying was practice that, right? Like the steps that I gave you earlier are how you get present, radically mindful.
Yes.
These are practices that change the soul. These are practices that change a person from the inside out, because we're less likely to take care of us before we take care of someone else.
Well, and also, I've always heard that the relationship that we have with ourselves is reflected back in our other relationships. So if you don't have any relationship with yourself, or
Right.
God forbid, a bad relationship with yourself, you don't like yourself, you don't value yourself, it's going to inform your relationship with other human beings.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So connect to essence, to you, and to others. And how can we get to a point, because you talk in this part about stress and fear ruling our thoughts and actions. How can we get to a point where stress and fear are not ruling our day-to-day moments?
Well, go back to that moment when that monk looked at me and said, breathe.
Okay.
It's that simple. It's stopping. 60 seconds. By the way, people gave me a hard time, people that were in the industry. Daniel, why are you telling people they can have peace and tranquility in 60 seconds? Come on. So this one particular person, I said to him, I said, how long have you been practicing your level or your spirituality? He said, 24 years. I said, wow, then you should be able to do this in 5 seconds.
Yeah.
'Cause
Yeah.
this is not difficult. I can be in a moment of peace and tranquility in seconds, just stopping and going,
Right.
or even being down in this crazy Times Square area,
Yeah.
and just taking a deep breath and going, look at all the beautiful people here. Look at all the different languages and
The colors and
lights.
yeah.
It's like, but people, I'm watching them. They're just one place or the other. They don't even
Yeah.
know. Yeah,
Yeah.
you just, it's that simple.
Now, practice number 2 is forgive. The act of forgiveness is an action that extends outward but has an inward result, you say.
Yeah, forgiveness is a big one. I went through that. One of the things that I ended up doing was writing down anyone I thought I owed an apology to, all the way back to my college sweetheart.
Oops. List.
Yeah, that's right. Hey, that was a long list. Yeah,
Get out a notebook.
Yeah, and it didn't mean that I talked to them all, but the ones that had a profound effect on me. So, and
You called them. You went back
yeah,
and you called.
I actually found this woman on Facebook and I called her. I hadn't talked to her in 34 years, and she was so excited to hear from me. And I said, Julia, I said, after we talked a little bit, she's got kids and a family. It's all great. And I said, listen, I had a reason for calling you, and I want to make sure I get this out before we hang up. Otherwise, I'm going to hang up and cower out.
Yeah.
And I said, I just wanted to apologize for the way I treated you in college. I said, I just don't think I really respected you the way I should have. And I apologize for that. And she says, what? I can't even remember what I did last week. I don't know what you did.
Yeah, and you had been harboring
this. But see, not forgiving ourselves and others is like drinking poison and expecting someone else to die.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. We're the ones that pay the price.
Well, to me, forgiving other people is easier. Like, I know people who the hardest person that they can't forgive is themselves.
Sure.
How do you suggest we can forgive ourselves of our transgression? Because here's the thing. I have a feeling that had she done something to you, you would easily forgive.
Yes.
But see, you had been harboring this
Yes.
guilt that you had done something to her.
For 30-something
Right.
years.
That's what. So how do we do that? Because I think forgiving ourselves is harder than other people.
It is. And that is going back to what Freddie said. That's first universe, then me, then others. You can't forgive others if you don't forgive yourself.
Right.
And it's a tougher process, but it's doable. And that's just, listing those things that you don't like about yourself, listing those things that you hold yourself in contempt for, and one at a time going through and just forgiving yourself for those things. Now, what I do, it's a process. I don't even think this is in the book. I write things down. First, I write down the transgression for myself. Like, I didn't like the way I acted, blah, 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 blah.
Okay.
Blah. So I write a letter to myself. Daniel, I don't like the way that I did this, and that. So all the negative stuff comes out. Then I take that letter and I burn it in a ritual. And I burn it in a ritual because the fire has energy and you can actually see the flames taking the paper up. So it goes into the ethers. But then right after that, it's equally as important as I write down, what do I love about Daniel?
Okay.
Which is usually a short list.
Okay, 1 and 2.
That's right. That's right.
I've got both of them.
Hey, the forgiving, the other one, the letter's like, man, 5 letters. You're like, okay. But then you get to what do I like about myself. So we write that letter, right? I like this about Daniel. And then what I have people do is they keep that letter. They don't destroy it. They don't burn that letter because that's a good letter. And then I have people go out and buy, like I would go, I don't know if you guys have them in New York, but there's a place called a dollar store.
Do we have those at dollar
stores?
I don't know if we have them in New York,
well,
but I know dollar stores.
I'm talking about, right.
Anything for 99
that's
cents.
It. That's it.
I love dollar stores.
And they lie because it's never, is this 99 cents? Yeah. Okay. So I will go to a 99-cent store and buy myself just a little trinket to say, you've done well. Right? And these are the kinds of things that we have to do over and over again because we do hold ourselves in contempt. And most of our anxiety and stress comes from not forgiving ourselves.
Right. And I've seen, I must say this, I've seen people's lives haunted by lack of forgiveness for themselves. Right. And you could have been that person had you not forgiven yourself for not being around for your mother and not being
absolutely.
Around.
Yeah.
And this story, this whole book could have gone a whole nother way.
Oh, yeah.
But so talk to the person who is listening who cannot forgive himself or herself. They just feel in their hearts that they have done something so terrible that they should not have done.
Well, you know what I found found absolutely amazing about the human condition is that we all bond in our brokenness, in that place where we very much alike like each other, right? And I think that the reason why we hold ourselves in contempt is because we're ashamed, and we think we're the only one that went through that. We're the only one that felt that. We're the only one that acted that way. And the truth is, it's not true. That there are many people. So here's what I would say to those that are suffering from lack of self-forgiveness.
Yes.
That which you keep in the dark consumes you. The more times you give it light, the less it consumes you. The less it consumes you, the more peace and tranquility you can have in your life. And so you need to talk to somebody and just say it. And then when you hear yourself say it, you start to realize, oh, that was goofy.
It wasn't that bad.
Wasn't that bad. And what is that bad? I don't know. But I do know that whatever I hold inside consumes me. And so a person that's lacking in self-forgiveness is consumed by their past. And they're repeating their past. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. Oh, crap. How did I get here?
Yeah.
Because you're constantly focused on things that are bringing that behavior or that experience back into your consciousness. And so it's really important that that we find a way to self-forgiveness. And maybe in the beginning, like I did, calling people was a way to go. Because after a few people, I realized no one even remembers.
So sometimes our lack of forgiveness, like this one friend of mine in particular that I'm thinking about, his mother's now deceased. There is no phone call. I mean,
no, but you can go do something for like, on Mother's Day last year, I wanted to, Mom wasn't around to buy flowers, so I went around looking for homeless women to give them flowers.
Oh, yeah.
Because that was a way to
in LA,
right?
Yeah.
It was a way to do that. So there's many things we can do. You don't have to sit at home and suffer. Suffering is optional in this world. And it's usually, again, self-inflicted. I say that a lot because we are the ones that bring it upon ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing in this world that's unforgivable.
And you have to be able to release it. And you know what I told the guy, he was asked, he didn't know how to forgive himself. I said, here's the thing. You're forgiving of other people of their transgressions toward you. Can't you imagine that whomever against, that you've transgressed against would forgive you? Like, in other words, it's reciprocal.
Well, if you're having a hard time forgiving, here's the other thing. I'm just thinking about this. It just kind of came up in my consciousness. Look at yourself as a child.
Mm-hmm.
And would you treat a child that way? Would you not forgive a child?
Right.
No, you would not. So that's when you don't forgive yourself, that's what you're doing. You're spitting on the child. And you need to learn to embrace that child within you and look for the truth. For example, in my first book, I wrote about, my dad trying to kill my mother. It was the first chapter of the book. And I was 5 and I forever held myself in contempt for not being able to help my mother. because
you're a baby. Yeah.
right. But for the longest time, I didn't look at the facts. I looked at my emotions and what I made up about that. The truth is, I was only 5. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of it I made up. So we got to really look at the things that we need forgiveness about and really look at the truth. Is it really what you say it is?
Or is it
did
a
you?
story?
It's a story, or it's your version of the story.
Yeah.
That's okay too, but if it's a story, then it's a story, period.
And also, Maya Angelou always says, when we know better, we do better.
That's right.
So like one of the ways I've been able to forgive myself for different things is I would always say, it was bad, but I did the best I could at the moment. I was who I was at that time.
Right.
Now I'm a different person.
Right.
And so I'm looking at the situation with different eyes.
Right.
So that's a way. Let's get through. Practice number 3 is accept unconditionally. And you have this quote. Unconditional acceptance requires that we accept things as they are, not as we would like them to be. It asks us to release the resistance against all that is and all that is outside of our control, to free ourselves from our own discomfort.
Yeah, it's really simple. When it comes to acceptance, I don't have to like it to accept it. But in order for us to move on as human beings, we need to accept life as it is, for the truth that it is. Mm-hmm. We may not like it. We may make up all kinds of things about ourselves. But I find that accepting my life as it is, whatever happened, the fact that I was a great businessman or that I went and traveled around the world, every day I get up and I say, you know what? I'm just going to accept life the way it is. Not to say that we can't do something about it, but you can't get anywhere until you accept what is. And just say, you know what? Another example, going back to, I always laugh at people that, are financially broke and they check their account like every 5 minutes. And I go, look, it's not going to have babies. Mm-hmm. And if you really want to know how much money you have, check at 12:01 in the morning when they update the bank, and it'll be the same all day.
Yeah.
But the truth is that if you accept the fact that you're broke, then you can do something about it.
Now, what can we do from here? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's unconditional acceptance. That's absolutely being willing to accept the truth for what it is without any manipulation at all.
And it's kind of saying, it is what it is.
Right.
Now, what will I do about it?
Right. It doesn't mean you stay there.
Right.
I have a quote that says, okay to be there, not okay to stay.
Okay. I like that quote. Send it to me. I'll put it on Twitter. Number 4 is love, be grateful, celebrate.
Yeah. The greatest thing I've gotten from all this is love. I mean, my mother was an incredible person. She had a big heart. She didn't care what you did. She didn't care what you were about, what kind of color you were. She was all about love, and it was the greatest gift she ever gave me. And through this process of writing this book and going through this experience with my mother, I really realized that the only thing we have is our ability to celebrate love and gratitude, and have that kind of love and gratitude for all our life, no matter what it looks like. That's going back to acceptance. Right? I mean, at the end of the day, even an illness or a death or whatever can be a blessing in disguise. And, as it was for my mother passing away, it was an incredible blessing for me and an incredible lessons for me. I mean, it birthed the book, right? Mm-hmm. So that was as they would say, the silver lining. Love and gratitude, I mean, I shouldn't have to say more than that.
They heal your soul.
They do heal your soul. I mean, and you can't have forgiveness and acceptance without them.
Yeah.
It's like part of the soup for success.
Love, be grateful, and celebrate. And practice number 5 is integrate. And I love this. You say the power lies in the integration of knowledge from the head to the body, behavior, and wisdom. Explain.
Well, if you don't integrate knowledge, I think there's a quote out there that says knowledge is powerful. I think it's something like that. And I always say, no, the application of knowledge is powerful. Knowledge, there are people on Skid Row in Los Angeles that are PhDs.
Yeah. So
that can't be true. It's the application of knowledge. And so when we're able to apply the things that we've learned, like what a waste it would have been if I didn't apply all this study that I did around looking for my truth. Right? The application of our knowledge and the application of our experiences is how we change our lives into being, when people go to Peru with me and they come back, I always say integration is the most important thing you could do. If you go to the mountains and you feel elated and you feel love and you feel compassion, but you come back and you slip right back into your old life, then it was for nothing.
Right.
You need to come back. And I do recognize, I think there's a number that as adults, we can barely retain 10% of what we learn. So you know what? Take that 10%, take one thing that you've learned and work it for a year. And that's what I mean by integration. Yeah.
Integrate the knowledge. Give me some final thoughts, my darling. Mi cielo. Mi amor.
Mi amor. That's right.
Vamos a hablar en español.
Sí, aquí vamos. My wish for everyone is that they can find peace and tranquility. I used to live a life of craziness and was successful at it and was good at it. Today, my life's not so crazy. I don't get really wound up about things. I'm not flying around in jets and and that stuff, but I'm still very successful. This book proved it in just a few hours that it came out. I was so happy to see that. And so in your own way, if people can find their own peace and tranquility, even if the stuff in the book doesn't work for them, find peace and tranquility. Find something that is bigger than the almighty dollar. You have family around you. You have friends around you. Don't miss the opportunity to love. Because that's not something. I heard something the other day in a movie. It was Clint Eastwood's The Mule. At the very end, he says, "All the money, and I couldn't buy more time."
You put that on Instagram.
Yeah.
I love that.
And I
all
cried.
the money in the world, I couldn't buy more time.
He couldn't buy the one thing he wanted most because he blew it, and all the money in the world he couldn't buy it.
And you can't buy health, you can't buy time, you can't buy happiness.
No. So stop.
And,
Stop now and make an about face. Don't quit your job like I did.
but still bring the awareness. I think the awareness that you came to was beautiful. I want to give my Tamari's tip because this book really inspired me. In chapter 5 of Radical Mindfulness, Daniel lists 6 steps to radical mindfulness in as little as 60 seconds. And one of the steps really resonates with me. It's something I've always done, knowing that for myself, my mental state is completely affected by my physical state. I have a history of struggling with depression and anxiety, and I've always used physical activity to alter my mental state, and for me it's really helped. So if you've never tried doing this, it's worth your consideration because it's free and it's much better than putting drugs in your body. Physical activity helps me keep my mind in the present because most of the activities I do require some level of concentration, whether I'm going for a jog down by the Hudson River or I'm lifting weights. I have to stay focused and I have to stay in my body. And the only way to do these things, to be focused and to be in my body, is to be in the present moment. Movement helps me rid my body and my mind of stuck energy, and different kinds of movement help me process different emotions. For example, heavy weight training helps me deal with anger and frustration, where a jog outside helps me ease anxiety. Even something as simple as just deep stretching helps me if I'm sad. But all movement serves a great purpose because it pulls me back into my body and focuses me in a way that nothing else can. And it requires that I'm aware of my breathing when I'm moving, which is part of being present in your body. So my advice is, if you're in a place where you want to quickly shift your mental state in an effort to bring yourself into the present and get out of being stuck in the past or projecting yourself into the future, give physical movement a try and experiment with what type of movement works best for you under different circumstances. You may find that it really helps you more than anything else. That's what I have found. And I felt like when you mentioned that in the book, I said, amen, brother.
Yep.
Because that really, for me, that's really the secret sauce. We're out of time. I want to say, that's all for today's show. They go quick, right?
It does, yeah.
It goes quick. If you're hearing this episode as a podcast and you want to watch the show, go to youtube.com/Tamari Live and search for the video entitled Radical Mindfulness. You can also access my YouTube channel from my website, tamari.com. I want to thank my guest, Daniel Gutierrez. For more information about Daniel and his work, visit danielgutierrez.com. I'm going to spell that. Daniel Gutierrez. I'm going to spell that. Daniel, Daniel, Gutierrez, Gutierrez.com. danielgutierrez.com. Be sure to pick up a copy of his new book, Radical Mindfulness. It's available right now on Amazon.com in both Kindle and print. And I highly recommend this book. I really love this book, mi amigo. Please rate and review Tamary Live on iTunes, and be sure to subscribe to Tamary Live so you never miss an episode. You can subscribe using iTunes or your favorite podcast app. Just search Tamary Live. And you can find all episodes of Tamary Live posted on my website, tamary.com. While you're there, sign up for my mailing list. You'll get my newsletter with Tamary's tips about fitness, nutrition, motivation, and I always send out information about the latest episode of my podcast. Connect with me on Facebook and Instagram at Tamary Live and on Twitter at Tamary_Live. Make better choices today than you did yesterday, and you'll always be moving in the right direction. Peace out, and thank you, Daniel Gutierrez. This was beautiful. Thank you so much.